Welcome to the first official episode of Radio Amenti. I had released episode 0 as the initiation into the why of this broadcast and what to expect through these transmissions. But now is our first real deep dive into conversations on all the things that exist within the Amentiverse and what birthed it into being and really just what it's all about. Not it as in the eternal is. What Radio Amenti hopes to illuminate into the world and to inspire through each episode. So I thought it fitting that the first episode should be with Natalee Miller, who is my partner in Amenti Oracle and is the one who is responsible for the gorgeous artwork that accompanies the words and is just this catalyst for change in my life that I will forever honor and love, because not only did I find the absolute best creative partner for a project that is a dream come true, I also found a resonant friend that I love so much and have so much respect for, and has just been such a force of nature, powerhouse, protector. I just can't speak highly enough about her. Natalee is somebody that I can be radically honest with, always, and she always has the perfect thing to say. And, she's not a bullshitter. She tells it like it is. And in that telling it like it is, the advice and love and friendship she's offered has been truly a precious, precious gift. So in this episode, we talk about Amenti's inception, what inspired Natalee to start drawing again after not drawing for a really long time, the challenges of overcoming adversity and getting comfortable in our own skin, understanding the importance of knowing your worth and claiming your value, just all of the kind of ins and outs in the creative process and the process of self-realization that we have encountered and experienced through the last few years since we came into contact. That fated day, I saw her gorgeous artwork on an Instagram feed that, was the least likely source imaginable. So a little bit about Natalee. You can learn more about Natalee by visiting her website, which is Natalee Miller.com. So it's Natalee, and it's spelled Lee. So you go to nataleemiller.com, you can see an array of her gorgeous work that's beyond Amenti. You can also order prints, and perhaps if you have a project in mind that you'd love to see manifest into the world and be guided through gorgeous art, you can potentially work with Natalee to kind of explain a little more about Natalee's background. I'll do the bio pitch. So, Natalee Miller is a self-taught East Coast native whose work draws heavily on the themes of mysticism, 70s and 80s nostalgia, fashion, science fiction, Art Nouveau, and Art Deco movements, ancient civilizations, and astrology, amongst others. She specializes in fashion, illustration, poster design, and colorful murals. She truly is a Renaissance woman who I'm sorry. If I keep going on, I can't sing her praises enough. I just love her. So I hope you love this, next level initiation, moving forward in degree as we ascend through the Amentiverse. And I hope you enjoy this broadcast, and be sure to follow Natalee, and enjoy. Welcome to Radio Amenti, embracing the eternal now, where minds and timelines merge. Inspiring synchronicity, awakening potential, and making sense of change. Thank you so much for coming on. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you for a while now.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
So, oh my gosh. I can't believe that it's been almost 3 years now since we connected.
That's insane. It seems like it's been a lifetime and also like 10 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of life has happened in those last 3 years. And, we've been through a lot, and we have accomplished a lot in a really short amount of time. And I just wanted to kind of dive into the fact of how life has changed over the last 3 years and what has all transpired since you started putting your art back out into the world.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't even know where to begin because it's just so like such a big cloud of craziness. So, wow, it's so hard to like whittle down everything. I'm such a babbler, so I'll try to chill. Yeah, basically I just I feel like I was born like drawing. Like as far as I can tell, I from like the stuff that's all stashed away in my parents' attic, like I basically picked up a pencil and never stopped. And my mom saved everything, and we had this kind of like I think I don't want to say she was the only one that like encouraged me, but she seemed to have like a really strong connection to the fact that I was like really just drawn to that was just how I expressed myself, and that seemed to like resonate with her. So I kind of feel like it was something she wasn't really able to do in her own life, so she like really encouraged it from me. So sometimes I find pictures I drew and like I would tell her what they were, and they're just like creepy. It's like the gate to heaven and stuff. Like, why was a little kid drawing that? So we had like this deep, like weird art spiritual connection. And it's kind of awesome to look back on that. So that was always with me. And that was just my thing. Like that was my identity and everything growing up. And then, life happens, and my mom actually passed away when I was 12. So after that, I kind of like leaned on art as my expression thing for a while, but then I just like started partying and found drugs and alcohol, and that just became my thing. So as it turns out, I'm not able to make art and also drink and party at the same time. So as much as I wanted to be like that, like starving artist, like tortured soul kind of thing, like that was not like an option for me. It was like I just couldn't access inspiration at all. And it really bothered me because I really wanted to be like that, like, I don't know. This is the 90s too. So I was watching like Train Spotting, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to move to London and I'm going to be like this drug addict and I'm going to make the best art. It was like this stupid delusion that I had when I was a teenager. Didn't work out that way. So I went to art school, and I just couldn't make anything. It just wasn't an option. So I left and just kind of like bartended and did, I don't know what I did through my 20s. I just kind of like stumbled through. And then life got a little overwhelming. I got a little over my head without going too much into that. It was my choices were taking me places I wasn't really like able to cope with. And I kind of just got to this boiling point, and I was driving down the road one day. Oh, I had stopped drinking. I got sober, and I just didn't really have anything at that point. Like I didn't have an outlet at all. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was really into exercising, actually. Just kind of funny. And then one day I was just driving down the road, and I heard this song. I don't really remember what the song was, but I just like got this. It was like something clicked in my head, and I just had to go home immediately and start drawing. And that had been like the first time I really like had that feeling like I need to express something in over 10 years. So I went home, and luckily I kept like buying art supplies over the years, like hoping to gain some inspiration, and it never worked. So I had all these like really cool art supplies that I'd never opened. And I just went home and I started drawing, and I just like didn't stop. And I haven't stopped, and it's been 3 years. And so I just kind of like, it's so funny now because like social media had happened over this time, and that wasn't something that existed when I like went to art school. So I just kind of like naively was like, I guess I'll just post my pictures online. I don't know. I guess that's what people do. And I did. And then you came out of nowhere, and then life spiraled into this awesome, like, Amenti cloud. And that's how that happened.
Well, it was so wild because, you know, the idea of the tortured artist, right? And how we kind of have to suffer to be creative. But I almost feel like the pain and loss and all of those things, it informs the art in such a way that it becomes visceral in the way that the pen hits the paper. So I tell you this a lot, but I have to reiterate it. When I saw your art, it hit me in a way that is something that I don't think I've ever experienced before or after. You could just feel this pain, but beauty in the pain. And it was just, I've never seen anything expressed like that other than like Eon Flux.
Oh my God. Thank you.
So when I saw your stuff, but it had that vibe where it was just like something familiar, but something beautiful, but something so deep in a way that was just so unique. So when I even saw your work, I was just like, oh my God, who is this person? How do I get in touch with her? And yes, all of the things. And the irony of, you know, how we found each other, you know, when I found your work, it was on an Instagram feed of an account that I really don't even resonate with. And, you know, has been a big learning process for both of us. So when that story is part of the process, you know?
There is.
But yeah, so when you weren't per se working with that account, they were just kind of working with you, I guess. How would you even explain how that happened?
So I kind of was like, I was definitely in a time of like searching, and I didn't really know like what I was searching for at that time. And I don't know, like I kind of am embarrassed to say actually that like all these kind of like pseudo spiritual like facade type of accounts were like just kind of like speaking to me, because I didn't really know that side of Instagram, or like, I don't know. I was just, you know, that's like what you stumble into in your first steps of like some spiritual journey, I guess. Like that's what they're intended for, right? Is to like get people to be intrigued by that. So I was like, oh my God, like, you know, and so growing up, my mom had been really new age, like, again, this is the 90s. So she's into like new agey spirituality. So that kind of resurgence of that, like, seemed really familiar to me. So I started following all these accounts that were kind of like, you know, they're into like tarot and they're into whatever, all that stuff. And a lot of them are reposting art. So initially my goal was to just get these people to like resonate with me. And I thought that we were kind of on the same aesthetic level, which we were for a while. And I don't know. Yeah, that particular account asked me if they could repost something, and I did a little bit of work with them, but that was my first, like, and I'm doing air quotes here, paid job, which I actually didn't get paid for. And it was a learning experience working with them for sure. Then they ended up like just taking stuff from me and not asking if they could repost it. And you know how that went. It was, they ended up taking something that I did that was like a very personal piece and just slapping a really vapid caption on it, and it ended really badly. But you were there, and somehow this came out of it. So it's cool. I don't know. I don't know. I hate everything happens for a reason, but it's kind of true, you know?
Yeah, in a weird way it does, because I think the ultimate lesson, and, you know, if you don't mind me sharing the kind of thing that stuck with me out of it, was that I think both you and I on this, I love the expression from the OA where they talk about like this garden of forking paths, how we have been on such similar yet very different journeys of coming to understand worth and value and how precious our time is, and just that we are worthy. We are worthy of things. And when that account had said to you how you have to like manifest your worth because like whatever, they couldn't pay you, to me it was like actually like fueled the desire to see Amenti come into the universe in a way that was more than we had ever imagined, even more so. because,
Oh, totally.
you know, it was just like, oh, okay, let's do this thing. So it was crazy because originally when I had reached out to you, the idea was that we would self-publish and utilize kind of like the networks that I had to get it out into the world. But all the crazy synchronicities that started around it were just fucking nuts.
Yeah, they were insane. And I also think that, like, yeah, it's funny because that whole interaction I had with them was like so disheartening, and I didn't know my worth yet. I didn't think I had any. I didn't really consider myself an artist yet. And I didn't even really know like what I should be getting paid for what I was doing, and I don't know. So then this all happened, and Amenti became what it became, and it went down the road that it went. And I have to actually credit you because this was so awesome. I don't know like what the process was exactly that day that you were just like, I'm going to try to get this published like for real. And that was really powerful because I never would have done that. So for you to just have a moment of like, yeah, this is actually real. I don't have to like fight for people I don't have to like send this out. And I have so much respect for people that self-publish, but it was such a daunting task. And to kind of have the confidence to just say, actually, I'm going to present this to someone and see like what happens. And then the craziness that happened like in that one little step, I don't know. That was just really powerful. And that was like hugely transformative to watch you take that step and apply that confidence to myself and how I sell my art now and how I present myself to the world. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Because I honestly feel like your art helped give me strength and inspiration to be like, holy shit, we have something special here. This combination of these two forces, and just why not? You know, why not put it out there? Because the worst that could happen is that we get a no. But then on the opposite side, I think that's a testament to like, without being so new agey or spiritual bypassy, but when you really are doing something from your heart and believing in what you're creating, obstacles transform. So there's not without obstacle, right? But they become less daunting or less what is the right word? Detrimental. You know, it's like all the obstacle I think we faced in the process of creating or publishing was more just like realizing how publishing works and how long that process actually takes.
Yeah, but to be honest, like I thought that's not what I thought that experience was going to be like at all. And it was so, I think about this all the time. Like, I don't know, there are so many synchronicities and crazy things that happen that sometimes I forget a lot of them, but I think about that time you had dinner with someone that's like a super intuitive or something, like a friend of yours. And I think you said, this is so long ago too, before Amenti, I think even before Amenti was going to be published by a major publishing house, but, and she like told you what she saw for us and I remember I was walking down Milwaukee Ave in Chicago talking to you on the phone, like screaming into the crowd, so obnoxious. And you were saying that she said it won't be without its obstacles, but it's going to be like amazing and like flow really well. And I had no idea what that actually meant. And now looking back on that conversation and how, I don't want to say it was easy, but yeah, just how like it was kind of seamless. It was like stress free. It just kind of, I don't know. It was just like became. I don't even know how to describe that process.
Well, this is the thing. Like a lot of people are shocked when I tell them our process. So I actually yesterday did a podcast with my friend Noah, who has the Synchronicity podcast, and he was asking about how we created it. And I was telling him about how when we agreed to do the project, how being like also a creative person, I hate nothing more than fucking people telling me what to do or how to do it or how it's supposed to look. So to have said like, I'm going to write the definition, I just want you to draw how it makes you feel. He was just like, whoa. And that worked.
Yeah.
I like from your perspective, I'd love to know like what that was like from your end, working on a project where it was just like, okay, here we go. I'm going to write this thing and then like just interpret it through your art.
Oh my God, it was so weird, but also like not weird at all. I have never really collaborated with anyone before. So I kind of came into it both naive and like not knowing what I was doing, but also I think that was actually like a really huge benefit. What was it like? Well, it was like a perfect pairing. I don't know if that could have worked with anybody else. And to be honest, this whole project happened. I had to really kind of like think about how I want to title myself, because when I try to do this with other people, like other clients as an illustrator, it just doesn't work. So that's something that should be noted. You had so much like wisdom that I was searching for, and so many, I mean, just the way Amenti was written, it was like the way that you went towards it was exactly what I wanted. Like, I remember talking to you on the phone. I think it was our first conversation. It was when you were telling me about the esoteric encyclopedia. And I was just like, you know so many things. Like, can you just teach me everything you know? Like, I was overwhelmed with how much I wanted to learn, and like how late I had been starting to learn all these things that have been like intriguing me for my whole life, but I just like, didn't know how to find it. So the Amenti guidebook is basically every question I wanted to ask you before I even had to. Like, you would just send me this wisdom, and I was like, perfect, that's exactly what I wanted to know, and now I'll just draw it. And as far as like the process of the actual art coming to be, I don't really know how to even explain it. It was just kind of like, I mean, I really feel like there wasn't a lot of decision making, and it wasn't, I don't want to sound like, I mean, I know we're on an Amenti podcast. I don't want to sound too woo or whatever, but it really wasn't like a lot of direction by myself. I don't feel like that just kind of came out of my hand. I had like a palette that I didn't even choose it. It kind of chose itself again. It seemed, the Amenti palette is very like airy and kind of like, I mean, there's some light, like I don't know. When I picture like the halls of Amenti, it's dark, but like really ethereal, and there's like lots of glowing. So that's just like, I don't know, that just seemed natural. But again, I didn't like consciously sit down and choose the colors. They just kind of like happened. It was super intuitive. I didn't think about it too much. I just kind of read what you wrote and like closed my eyes and pictured like if there was, because it's all about, you know, like these, I mean, it's not about, but it's very heavily centered around like Egyptian ideals and spirituality. So I kind of was trying to envision like if there was a form like embodying whatever I just read, like what would they be doing? How would they be presented in front of me? And how, like, if I was like asking the universe help with this particular issue, how would this god or goddess appear in front of me? And then I just kind of like drew that, and that's what happens. But I feel like that's even too literal. Like, I honestly I just really just came out of my hand. That's not a fun answer. So,
but I felt like that even with the writing and just all the weirdness of when, you know, remember that day when I was on a walk and I found the shell that wound up being the cover of Amenti. Like, there was just so many times where we're just like, what? How?
Yeah. Everything was so connected and crazy. And like, I would be thinking about something, and then you'd text me like a picture of whatever. Like, it was like the shell, and it was just became like not even weird. You know, I was like, of course she's over there like finding a physical version of the thought that I'm having. Like, I think you were in like, where were you at that time? You weren't even around me.
Yeah, I was in North Carolina.
Yeah. So weird. So yeah, the synchronicity was super crazy and amazing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just like so many things. Like thinking back to like, God, so we met in 2017 and then started this. And then that summer was the summer that we went to Rhythmia too, which is a whole journey in and of itself. But I mean, it's crazy now that Amenti's out in the world, and just that I think it's important you make the point that defining yourself is something that I think can be a little more fluid now, because it's like like Illustrator feels so small. You are such an incredible creative, but there's not one word that can kind of put it all into a thing.
Right. And it took me a long time to accept to just be artist. And I still have a problem with that because I'm like, that's not like a thing. Because that's what we're told. I mean, that's what I was told my whole life. Like, that's cool. That's a cool skill you have, but you got to like figure something else out because that's not real. But then as it turns out, like after Amenti, I literally cannot do anything else for work. Like if I get to a point where I have to go like work for someone, I am so sorry in advance for my future employer. Like I just like, this is what I have to do. Like I have to make it work because this is all I can do now. I mean, I think this is really all I was ever really supposed to do. But yeah, this is what I got. This is my toolkit. So artist has got to be the thing. And like I said, like it only works with, I mean, maybe this won't be the case in the future. Maybe there's like a handful of other people, but like I really tried to do like this designer thing for a while. And I don't know what the definition of a designer is, but in my mind, it's kind of like someone who can like visually solve someone else's problem. And I don't think I can do that. Like I can do that with you, but it's not a problem. I can just like bring your words to life. I don't know. It's weird. It was a weird like year and a half after Amenti to be like, okay, so what am I now? I'm the Amenti illustrator, but then I'm like some other thing. I'm not an illustrator for anybody else.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, because then it's like, well, I think something that we both really learned along the way too is the power of saying no to things. You know, that's so fucking important. Just being able to say no, or being able to be like honest enough with ourselves or with a potential client to be like, hey, no, this isn't working.
It's true. And it's like for everyone's benefit, because I've not said no to some things and I don't think it works well for either of us. But there's been so many lessons with this, and it's totally open. I don't know. It's just opened up so many pathways and crazy different directions. And I sometimes actually forget about Rhythmia. Like that was insane. Actually for Rhythmia, I think I forget about it sometimes because it was amazing in the moment. And then obviously it's like, I mean, it's so beautiful, such a beautiful experience, but nothing that I like experienced there kind of like resonated in real life until like actually it's all happening now. And now I'm reflecting back. I'm like, oh my God, that happened at Rhythmia. Like I knew, like if I had just known, I don't know. It's just crazy. Life is insane. I love it so much.
Well, that's the crazy thing too about how time and like, appropriately, we worked on a project together that's called the Halls of Amenti, basically, like this codex of all timelines coalescing. But even the dream I had about Amenti was 2013. All the stuff that happened at Rhythmia was 2017. Here we are, 2019. And I still have a hard time too with like when you have these downloads or all these, it sucks because all these words are actually good words, but they become so triggering because they've just been kind of co-opted by like a really annoying community. But like, but yeah, it's weird when you see and look back and be like, wow, that actually was confirmed then. And here we are now.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever doubted something and then it just winds up coming to fruition later, I'm like, oh shit, I should have listened then.
I know. It is like a lesson that it's just will always repeat itself and we'll never really learn it because it's so unbelievable. And it's so hard to recognize it when it's like, I don't know. I'm only just now starting to like have the understanding, like when I'm really upset about something, I'm like, this will totally reveal itself in some timeline. It doesn't really feel any better in the moment. Just now I'm realizing that's true. And it's happened so many times that it shouldn't have taken me this long, but it's just how we're human, I guess. But yeah, the timelines are crazy. And I went to this dream workshop a few weeks ago, and the woman that was teaching it told us that she's been recording her dreams for 27 years or something. Like she jots them all down. And every once in a while, she'll just pull one out of her bookshelf and not even know what year it's from or anything. And things that happened like 15 years ago will be like, things that she dreamt about 15 years ago will be like actually happening in real life now. And it's just like, I don't know. I think like half the room kind of understood that. And I was on that half. And the other half was like, this lady is out to lunch. I'm like, well, that's because you've never been to Rhythmia.
But I think too, like, it's really hard when, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that there's people that don't remember their dreams. Like, everybody dreams every night, but not everybody remembers it. But dream state is such a important part of, I think, both of our realities. It's like hard to kind of imagine not having that connection to dreams.
Oh, totally. And like, actually, I don't know how this, I mean, I feel like this somehow will also reveal something crazy later, but just before I met you, I had this dream that I just woke up from a dream and I made all this art about it. I think it actually was like right around the time that you emailed me for the first time. And I just had this phrase called, says, come to heaven in my head. And I'm like, what is that? It's kind of foreboding and it's kind of creepy and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I just kept making art about it. And like, I realized, and I was up in my attic last summer looking through like boxes of stuff that my mom had saved that I drew. And there was like all these, like I said, like all these like portals, drawings of like portals to heaven, like the entry to heaven. And like, I don't know, it just was like, there it is again. So weird, these timelines. I still don't really know what that meant, but I feel like it was very Amenti, so we'll see what happens down the line.
Totally. Well, it's funny because Amenti's become such a part of our vocabulary for just explaining things. Like, oh, that's so Amenti. That's like a very Amenti thing. For you, like, what does Amenti evoke? What does Amenti mean to you?
Well, there's like I feel like Amenti in that, like, that's so Amenti is it's a little bit different than like my understanding of like the halls of Amenti. Although I think that like they link together and you know, one's like an illustration of the other, like visually and vocally. But well, like when we're talking about that, Amenti, it's just like this kind of like celestial wisdom, but also like a sort of like an embrace. I don't know. It's like, it just feels like this ancient, wise, like pat on the back kind of like, it's been very comforting to me. And Amenti as like a little entity that we created has been incredibly transformative and healing and just like super comforting to me in some really rough times that have happened since we started it. So yeah, it just kind of feels like this ancient starry grandma. That's so weird. But it's also, I don't know, that's where everything like sorts itself out for me. It's kind of like, that's where all the timelines kind of make sense. And I can like go in there. Sometimes I can't like get into an Amenti mind frame. Sometimes I'm feeling like very like bound to my own like emotions and ego and too weighed to the earth a little bit, I guess is a way of describing that. And it's like, but I like know that I'm doing that. It's like, okay, I'm being really earthy right now and I'm not being very Amenti. Or I'm not like able to access that type of wisdom that I know is there. But like, I always, even like when things are hard or just very like the just torture of being like a human is too real. Sometimes I still know it's there to like comfort me at some point when I'm ready. Sometimes I can't even use Amenti cards. And I'm like, why can't I do this? Like, these are like 50% me. But I'm just like, I feel, and I don't know if other people feel this way or if even you do, but like sometimes I'm just like, when I'm like searching, like I have a few decks that I always go to, and I think it should be noted that I don't use them for like fortune telling kind of stuff. Like I don't even know how that works, but I use all of them are very like transformation and like self-understanding kind of tools for me. But Amenti's on my shelf. I'm looking at it right now, and sometimes I look at it and I'm just like, nope, I am not ready for an Amenti lesson right now. I know it. It's too real.
I can totally relate to that too. Sometimes it's also surreal because when I look back to Amenti, like I often feel and truly believe that like we were chosen to be custodians of a work that was hoping to be expressed for a really long time. So I look at the words and I'm like, God, I can't believe that came through me or that came through us and we created this thing together. So it almost becomes like this surreal overwhelm. I'm like, I can't even process the fact that this is something that we created together right now.
I know. And it's like, I mean, I obviously like recognize your words and your language and your writing, and that's like our work. But I think it was really so, I know for me, and we've talked about it before, like it was very, I hate using the word channeled because I don't know. I don't feel like it's maybe a little presumptuous for me to say that, but something of that nature, like that wasn't really, I feel like we were just kind of bodies that were here to put that out. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess that's channeling in a lot different words, but
I feel it too. And then, around the time that they unfortunately didn't line up timing wise, but when, Hilma's exhibit at the Guggenheim was up, I mean, looking at her work was like, oh my God, she was in an Amenti portal of her own.
yeah, totally. And a lot of that, like, and I like want to say this, I'm not trying to compare myself to her at all, but when I see some of her stuff, like I didn't unfortunately get to go to her exhibit, but a lot of it was like reposted and I've read a lot of articles about it, but I see there's a lot of repeating like shapes and colors and like themes, like a lot, like especially like so bad that I can't remember the name. Not the I Embrace the All, but the one, I don't know. There's one particular card that looks so much like one of these big paintings one of the bigger ones in the exhibit, and I'm like, I think she is brilliant, and I don't think that I'm not comparing myself to her at all, but I know what that felt like. Like I feel like I know what she was doing, kind of.
Totally. Yeah, it's not a matter of like comparing or anything. It's a matter of, I think, that when I truly feel like creativity is such a high expression of spirituality. Like you're literally like opening up a portal to anything and everything. The infinity of it all can be expressed through you by just saying, okay, I'm ready to put the pen to the paper. I'm ready to, put my fingers to the keyboard. I'm open to receive what's meant to come through me. And if you look at it through that lens, sometimes when you're a little more open to letting it come through as opposed to just having this preset idea in mind, that's when some like real magic starts to happen.
Oh, totally. And I think that's also like how, from what I understand, how like symbols come to be and like archetypes. I'm glad we did an oracle, but I think that a lot of the stuff that is featured visually in Amenti like kind of reminds me of tarot, because tarot essentially, I mean, there's so many different kind of like collector's decks now, but the major ones are just full of symbolism that like, I mean, those symbols are just like known to resonate with people on a certain level. That's why they're chosen. And a lot of the stuff that came through with Amenti, just like, it didn't feel like I was expressing myself, really. I think that's really the difference. I was kind of like just seeing these symbols that I feel like are meant to, we react to them whether we know it or not. And that's why tarot and oracles are having this moment right now, is I think people are more open to receiving those messages and reacting to those images.
Totally. Because symbols are something that transcend language. It's like a language all their own because it activates this part of your subconscious mind. It doesn't matter what language you speak, English, Aramaic, Spanish, Japanese, whatever is flowing through you, you can see this symbol and understand the universal nature of it. And I mean, and I love that you said before too, with the practice of not quite using it as something to tell the future or a fortune, but to be able to connect to a present moment or just to kind of get clarity and thought. And I feel like symbols are really, really good for like activating present moment awareness.
Yeah, totally. And that's like, I had a big like beef with tarot for a while because I thought it was supposed to, I didn't really get it. And I live near Salem, Mass. And it's great. It's cool. It's like beautiful, historic. There's a lot of like camp there around spirituality and Wicca and just, I don't know. It's been a little bit, I'm just a little drained of that. And I also think that like I got the wrong idea kind of about like what all these tools were for, because like you go, I mean, this happens everywhere, but like you go there or you go down to like some beach town boardwalk and there's people like telling your fortune. They're not telling your fortune. And it would really bother me. And then I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing with tarot and oracles. And I was like, I can't do this. And that means like my spirituality sucks. And so, because I'm not psychic, so like that I'm nothing or something. So it took me a while to kind of realize that's not what this is about at all. This is about archetypes and symbols. And yeah, like you said, like visual storytelling and being in the moment, not the future. That's like a whole other thing. I'm not psychic. Props to psychics. You guys are great. I don't know how that works. But yeah, I think it's all about the present moment. And once that finally like clicked for me, I was like, okay, I'm cool with this stuff again.
Totally. Well, it's hard because a big part of why I wanted to do this project with you too is because it's hard to find work out there that really speaks to that consciousness around a deck. You know, there's oracle decks on everything. You know, there are some really beautiful ones, and luckily now, because of technology, we keep seeing more oracle decks pop up from like really incredible artists and creatives. But even like just 2-3 years ago, a lot of the oracle decks we saw were just like the art was not speaking to us. I remember like our bonding moment over the fact like how ridiculous we thought it was to have like these like steroid angel oracle decks.
So crazy.
You're just like, what? Okay.
Yeah. Please include that, by the way. I know. Those are like just never did it for me. And to be honest, I like completely wrote oracles off as a whole for that reason. I was like, oh yeah, those are those decks that are like weird, like romance novel, like pornos or whatever. Or, like, I don't know who is like what message I'm supposed to be receiving from that, but yeah, I'm very, very glad that, I mean, there's a plus and a negatives as well, but it's really cool to see this moment happening where I can see like how this consciousness is coming to fruition for other artists and how they're expressing these things. Like I said, like there's a lot of repeating themes like in a lot of these decks, and I'm just like, I wonder like what that moment looked for them when they felt that and like created that. Like I wonder if it was like how it was for me, or it's really cool. I don't see that in those unicorn angel decks at all.
No. But you know, to each his own path. Everything serves a purpose, the good, the bad. It's like the cosmic yin yang of things, because how we found each other, when we found each other, the whole journey of creation, and even just the fact that it's just so nice to have an understanding with someone that not only is like a partner in something that is so profound that like we've birthed into the world, but to have such a friendship and the connection that I have with you is just has been such a gift. And it's just something that I think a lot of people get, I guess, what is the right word? Get like kind of like glammed to believe in, is that all of a sudden you think like when you hit a milestone or create something that has been a goal of yours, that all of a sudden like I have made it and all of my problems are resolved. And now like totally like high vibe living, love and light. And it's like, no.
No.
It's work, and it's a consistent practice of having to go back to that space of being like, okay, I know that this is what it feels like when things are good and I'm in flow, and I know that there is this big reality where all these universal elements and archetypes exist, and I can channel wisdom, but we're still here on terra firma, on the fucking planet Earth, and you know, it's hard sometimes to be a human being. It's hard to be a human.
Yeah. It's so hard. And I don't know, like, I don't know what that feeling is of like, I've made it. Like, I feel like, is that really a thing that people feel? I mean, I had it for like a second after Amenti, but it wasn't like I have made it completely. Like, I am good to go now. Like, I'm done. It's more like, all right, well, now we just stepped our game up and now we got to do more. And it's harder. Now it just got harder. But it's like somehow when you're in that flow consciousness, when you're in that flow, it just doesn't feel like the same kind of work. It's not like a struggle. Like work and struggle are not the same thing. So I totally feel you. But yeah, I don't know what that whole like I've made it thing is.
Yeah, I think it's part of the illusion on social media, where it can be a tool or it can be a weapon. And I think there are certain corners and shadows of social media that have been weaponized to play to your like insecurities and like, okay, well, I should be here, but I'm not here. So if I join this thing, then maybe it'll help me get here. And then once I'm there, then all of my problems will be resolved because I'm just like vibrating at such a high frequency that nothing can touch me. And I just think that like speaking to the fact that that's a mirage is really important.
Yeah, totally. And there's that, I don't know, there's like quotes that you see like regurgitated all over the place. But one of them is something like, I don't know, think about like there was a time in your past when you would have like killed to be where you are now. And I think about that all the time. That is so true. And it becomes truer like every single day. Like every time I do pretty much anything in the realm of creativity, I'm like, this was just a dream. Not only a dream, but like, and then it became a non-dream because it like really felt like impossible. And it's just crazy that, yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever really feel like you're like gonna come to anything in particular, but as long as you stay in that state, it's like a pretty constant little buzz of reassurance from the universe or whatever you want to call it that like you're doing the right thing. That's probably the best it gets as far as I can tell. But it feels pretty good, so that's fine with me. And I don't really care what all these like pieces of the internet that like are trying to tell me I'm not doing enough or I'm not enough. Like I've had to shut that off, and I've done a pretty good job just recently of doing that. But it's only because I'm like, you kind of just have to trust fall into what feels right. Like when you're working and not struggling, I'm just like, even if I go broke right now, I kind of feel like everything's going to somehow be okay. And then, I don't know, it seems like so far that's been true. So that's success, I guess.
And just having that, when that kind of like well of creativity is constantly like being filled, and like what we had talked was like 2 weeks ago almost, it's like summer's coming to a close, just having a day where you can be out painting in the sun and just having it flow. I mean, that feeling is probably just the best feeling.
God, it's so good. It's like, yeah, and it feels so different for everyone. And it changes, like, for me every day. Like, it's like sometimes it's in the sun. It just was like in this weird little closet that I cleaned out, and I was like painting an old canvas with gesso. And I was like, this is so beautiful. This is what I've always wanted. It wasn't like some glorious moment in the sun, but like today, that's what that feels like. And it's just because I'm doing the same thing that feels good. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, oh God, I'm just so, every time I talk about this, I get off track and I just get so grateful. And I like found this, but it's like, sorry if this is a little out of convo, but like to just look back and realize like none of this would have happened if life wasn't really, really painful for a while. None of it. And I like, I'm not going to get into my specific story, but like incredibly unbearable for a while. So like, I don't know. I think if anyone's like listening to this and struggling with like, I'm listening to myself talk. I'm like thinking about how annoying it must be to hear this if you haven't found that yet. And I'm like conscious of how obnoxious that could sound, but it's like, I don't know, maybe you just, I feel like everybody can get there. They just have to like plug through like some really shitty shit. And then just like once something feels really good without even like, and it's not like something feels good that you did. It just somehow like everything feels aligned, and just like fall into that as much as you can, even if it's scary as hell. And then you'll be laying on your bed doing a podcast with like one of your best friends.
Totally. I think that anything worth having and doing is worth the struggle it can sometimes take to get to that point. And the paradox of it is that sometimes, we get stuck in these places where like life happens and all the shitty shit just fucking feels like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And then there's this like spark of clarity, this like aha moment where the weird thing about like time, I feel like with your journey, with so many people that I talk to, with even my path, it's almost like getting back to what we knew as children and then somehow lost along the way of all the bullshit that life throws at us. So it's not necessarily, it can be for other people like creating something new and carving out a niche that you never even thought of before. But then I think a lot of us, it's like getting back to what we always knew but somehow forgot.
Yeah. I think about that a lot, like the childhood thing. That's like a huge theme for me personally. Like, I actually feel like I kind of like grew up in reverse. When I think about myself as a child, I was so self-assured. I knew exactly what I wanted and I knew exactly who I was. And I had like a really strong sense of style and I just wasn't like fearful. And it's before I started like life happens to everyone, but also like a lot of like my own choices like I started breaking my own heart really as I got older, and I didn't realize it. And when I think that's when you just kind of like break away from your soul a little bit. And I don't know, there's so much going on when you're growing up. You don't realize that you're doing that, but like, so there's really no way to prevent it. And I think that's just part of like life. But yeah, going back to that can also like the path back to that is not necessarily nice either. But yeah, it's like when I was like right before I met you, I was doing in my like searching, I was doing all these like guided meditations with these intuitives and whatever people I was meeting. And every single time, I didn't know how to meditate either. I like didn't even think I was doing it right. But every time I would go into this meditative state, I would see this kind of like weird sort of like transparent version of my child self just being like, dude, what are you doing? And it didn't, again, like I didn't realize anything in the moment, but now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Like this, this is, again, I hate to sound annoying. Like I have it all. Like this is not true at all. But sometimes I have these moments in my day and I'm like, this is legitimately every single thing I thought my life would be like as an adult when I was a little kid. So like, I haven't made it, but I like kind of made that part. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good, like, what is the word? Is like barometer for just having a point to check back to, because, when we're in it, when we are here now and, in this space and can lose sight of like, holy shit, like if my 12-year-old self knew this is who I'd grow up to be, she'd be like, oh my God, what? This is what it can be like. And there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. And I think that it's another thing to really kind of gauge the happiness level of life too, is that like money comes and goes, and I love money. Money's great, but like to be living truly a rich life is when you can look around you and you're like, oh my God, I am inspired. I feel creative. I have fucking really good friends. Things may be challenging and will continue to go through their cycles of challenge and change. But if I can look at where I'm at and just be grateful for the people around me and the creative inspiration I have, then things are pretty good.
Oh yeah. That's really all there is, right? I don't know. Especially, I don't know, maybe this is different coming from because we're both creatives, but like I don't have anything else when I don't have inspiration and creativity. Like I can't even make money when I'm not inspired. Like I can't, like that's just, maybe that's just very specific to our situation, but it's like, it's a pretty literal cause and effect. Like I have to stay in that grateful, inspired place or I literally can't survive anymore. So that's my, yeah, exactly what you said. Like that's my wealth. I'm certainly not financially wealthy at all, but I feel really good. And I feel trustful that I'll always be okay because I'm not like clogging my spiritual pathway to being inspired anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's the greatest goal, is that inspiration, just being able to tap into that imaginal realm with ease. There's nothing like it. It's really fucking, that's where real magic takes place, because you're just in this pool of possibility. And it's really fucking cool.
So cool. It makes me like cry all the time. It's like I try to be, I don't know how to like, I'm so bad for like, I don't want to say I'm bad, but like I look at my like spirituality sometimes and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I try to like, I don't even want to say pray, but like communicate with whatever is like taking care of business right now. And I'm just like, every time I try, I like just end up being like, oh my God, I'm so thankful. Thank you so much. I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. And I just like, there's no real like, I just like don't even know how to put it into words. It's like, it's so funny. We've been talking for like an hour, but when it really comes down to like creativity and inspiration and how that ties to like your spirit, your soul, like I don't know how to explain anything. Like I don't even know how I just spoke to you for an hour. It's so magical and it makes no sense to me at all, but it feels so nice.
Well, it's the space of timelessness emerges, right? When we're just like in a flow. The cupness of time we have drunk from.
The cupness of time. Is that how you use that, by the way? Like I don't know how you say that.
I don't even know either. So for people listening, so Natalee and I often laugh about a lot of the vernacular that has emerged from the spiritual space. We have a healthy dose of snark in us. So I don't know, for me, like growing up in Jersey, no matter how much I live in this magical reality and love all of this stuff, I still am like, oh man, give me a break with some of it. So the cupness of time is a little buzz phrase that has emerged from the process that is, yeah.
There's so many, and I'm just like, I wish somebody would write a dictionary on that and explain to me. Like, sometimes I'm on like, I hate that it's all coming from Instagram, but let's be real. I'm like reading through, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm reading at all. Like, I don't know what any of these words are together anymore at all. This is so crazy to me, and yet somehow it's like this spiritual language that like we're all supposed to be speaking, and I don't even know.
No, I think that a healthy dose of snark and a good discerning mind is really important. You know, it's crazy. I have to send you this, but Richie had sent me, there's this thing where basically like somebody had programmed AI to essentially like complete a sentence for you. So you can put in any prompt on there. So like he put in one about like, how will humanity transcend its ignorance? And literally the AI typed out these 3 paragraphs that sounded like something right off of an Instagram quote. And it was just like this weird dream language where you're like, whoa.
Oh my God.
This actually sounds like something I'd read on Instagram. And like, this is just coming from an AI bot. And of course, I had asked like when the reptilian overlords come, and it basically like went into this whole thing about galactic language, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh my God! Please send me that.
I will. But you know, it's good. It's good to take the inspiration and insight where it comes from, but to also be able to keep your bullshit detector on and to be like, okay, I think that this is just like another platitude that I don't know is very useful. And I feel like usefulness has become such a key word over the last few years. It's like, is this useful or is it not? And it's what a journey.
What a journey. Oh my God. I'm looking at Amenti right now and I'm like, okay, I haven't been like ready for a little while for whatever reason. It's like too real, you know? It's so funny. Like, I don't know. I wanted to talk to you about this a little bit. Like, I don't know if you use the deck because like, it's cool because like for me, I can pull a card and then I'm like reading your words. So it's not like I'm like looking directly at my own stuff for like wisdom, which would be kind of weird. But yeah, I don't like, do you use Amenti do you use it in your own like practice?
So So Saturday, like, you know, I've been on this like crazy healing journey this summer or this year, really, ever since like getting my implants out in March, and then just all of July, just kind of doing ceremonies. And I this Saturday did my last ayahuasca ceremony that I'm going to do for a while. And it was fucking crazy. But before ceremony, I pulled a card, and I did this actually when I was at Rhythmia too, where I'll just pull a card and look to the art for wisdom. So it's funny because like I don't ever read the guidebook because like it just feels weird for me to be reading my own words. So I'll look to your art and just like use that as the vehicle to like activate whatever insight I need. But I pulled on Saturday the I Am Forgiving card, which is, oh my God, that card.
Oh my God, that's your card.
Yeah, it's like I relate to that art so much.
I just pulled it while we were talking, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, obviously.
Of course. But that's how I will use it in my practice, is like before a ceremony, like, or before a meditation or before a week starts, like I'll just pull a card and look to the art and just be like, all right, this is what the energy I need to connect to this week.
So cool.
But yeah, sometimes it becomes so surreal. I feel like this weird level of like, it's a balance of like attachment because I love it so much and I love our journey of creating it so much, but then detachment in a weird way of being like, oh wow, this is something that exists in the world too. That's like a useful tool. And it sometimes doesn't feel like mine, you know, or
Right.
ours, where it's just like, oh my God, it's this thing that exists that I would have loved to purchase if I had no attachment to it either.
Yeah, I know. It's so cool. Like when you said, if you were like 12 years old in Barnes and Noble, you would have totally bought it. And I completely agree with that. But it's so funny. I feel the same way. It's like this weird attachment, detachment. I'm looking at it right now. And when I like use it, usually I do it for other people. Like I just like help other people understand the cards because I don't really pull them for myself really, or I haven't, but I probably will after we get off this call. It's so funny when I look at these and I read through the guidebook, like it's almost like it was a completely different, like what came of our process was something completely different. Like I could flip through this guidebook and I've read this stuff so many times. Like I've read your words in every single passage so many times. And I could not tell you what each card, like what the definition is at all. It's like, it's so other that like, it will just never be familiar. Like, it's not like memorizable or I don't know. It's just crazy. Like I learn something new every time. And it's like, every time I open this, I'm like reading it for the first time. It's so crazy.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. That's the thing that makes me feel so awestruck about the process, is that we were able to create it the way that we created it together in such a fucking powerful partnership. But then to take these 42 ideals that come from ancient Egypt, but to make them universal, I was so worried about how that would be received. And just like, you know, I could have gone one way with it. We could have gone another way with it, but we really chose to make it accessible to, you know, say if like a Christian person picks up the deck or even an atheist. I wanted it to be something that doesn't matter where you come from or where you're at. You can pick it up and be like, oh shit, I can relate to this in my journey of what it means to be a human being on the planet.
Yeah, and I think all the reviews I love that too. I was so scared to read the reviews.
Me too. Oh my God.
But so many different walks of life came in and were writing about it. And I was like, oh God, like that was a huge thing for me too. I didn't want to like offend anyone. And I didn't, again, because it wasn't, the artwork especially wasn't like my own expression really. It's my particular style, but like I didn't choose these people, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that was the thing too, because the way that each card was expressed and the art flowed, it was just, I don't know, something that I think about a lot and talk about a lot lately is just the idea of like wearing something rather than like embodying it. And I think the way that each card is, it's like this spirit of embodiment this thing that you can relate to, where you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to embody this. This is what that energy can be that I can channel. And it's not necessarily like, we specifically chose not to make it a goddess deck, not to make it like just all Egyptian iconography. I think that was like, I'm just really glad that that's how we chose to express this project, because it's like a useful way to look at this exploration. But yeah, I'm very grateful for our readers and the people that have been receiving Amenti in the way that I think we really, like, our highest vision of it being received was how people are finding it and relating to it.
I know, it's so cool. It's so awesome to read like different people's. That's the other thing. Like, I love that people are reading these and writing their own interpretations, especially like, I know, like, again, Instagram is so like a thing, but I follow like the Amenti hashtag. So I see when people do their own readings, and like, I can tell some people aren't even like breaking open the book, and they're like totally interpreting these things in ways that like I didn't think of it, but it's so awesome. And it's like, I almost wish that like we could just have like other people, like I want someone else to give me an Amenti reading, like someone that doesn't know the book or what we were doing really, because the way that people are like processing these symbols and these ideals and these teachings are so rad. I'm like, it just gives me chills.
I love that too. It's been so cool seeing how people are taking it and making it their own, or just finding ways to apply it on their own path and journey. And I think that's more than I could have ever hoped for, because I'm so grateful that the book exists as a standalone. I'm grateful that the deck exists as a standalone. I'm grateful that people sometimes choose to use them together. And I am so inspired by people that choose to use them in their own way. And it's like, I learn something new each time as well, where I'm like, oh man, they really got that in a way that is pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Oh, and this book is so amazing. Like it really is like, I want to read it. I want to sit and read it like without the cards even near it, because it's like I said, it's like such a different. When I open it, I'm like, I've never read this before. This is crazy. And I'm like, were we just in a trance when we were doing that? Because this is nuts, but it's so, I don't know. It's like, I'm so glad that we did an oracle. And again, no shade to tarot at all. Like, I love tarot, but I love that that's the beauty of the oracle, is that like, it's so interpretive. And I feel like the book is almost like its own oracle. Like if I read, I don't know, like I Am Forgiving, for example, my takeaway from what you wrote is going to be completely different than yours, even though there's like the same words written. It's so cool.
It becomes this like crazy alchemical thing. And it's the thing that's really cool about oracle is that it can be supplemental to tarot and vice versa. So seeing a lot of people doing these posts with a tarot card and an oracle card, or even two different oracles, like Marcella Kroll. I love her decks. She's the Sacred Symbols Oracle and the Nature Nurture one. And she's been posting, one of her cards and one of our cards. And it's like all weaving together a bigger story. So that's where like, I love that it evokes a sense of like creativity and playfulness, and just how can I weave together a bigger story by combining these tools.
Yeah, totally. I've been doing one, like a combo, like, again, like I don't do like full on Amenti readings because they're just like too intense for me sometimes. But I love the combination of Amenti and She-Wolf Tarot, and She-Wolf has been really, like, I love her artwork, her colors, and actually I'm like redoing my house and her palette, which is, I don't know, like shout out to her. But it's actually been I feel like some of the new tarot decks they're like so esoteric with their imagery that they're actually kind of like oracles in themselves. Like, I don't like the She-Wolf Tarot is really hard for me to connect to on like a tarot level. When I come at it from a tarot angle, like none of those images, because I'm just so, we're also used to like the Rider-Waite. So it's like, you're looking for these symbols where they don't exist anymore, which is cool. And I love that about these new decks that are coming out. But if I go into it as an oracle deck and I combine the two of these, it's like such a cool, beautiful marriage of very similar imagery, actually, sometimes. And just like the way the colors play and the way that the two books play together are really beautiful. And it's just awesome. Yeah, like I love seeing all the combinations out there.
So cool. Yeah, I love her work. And I actually love, I feel like a very kindred connection to how she speaks to a lot of the same points of contention that we've experienced within the space. Mm-hmm. Even the fact that she experienced the same thing with that account, taking her art and putting a shitty filter on it. Like,
oh my God, that's right. It's the same people.
Another flower in the garden of working paths.
God. Wow. Yeah. And I really love that she, like, it's cool because, again, that's like a kind of a modern take on Egyptian iconography, but in a completely different way and from a completely different angle and style. And that whole, I don't know, just all of that, all of those teachings are they resonate with me specifically because they're very like feminine oriented. And I just like can't with masculine right now. I just wanted to let you know.
No, I think it's an important, good thing. And understanding what the feminine actually like means, and embodying that as a woman on this planet, as someone who identifies as a female on this planet, like what does feminine mean? And it's funny because, our biggest criticisms that we've had on the deck have been that they're not numbered. And then somebody was like, oh, another deck with no male representation. And right now, like we need this for us. I hate the term like girl power. It's like Spice Girls, but like it's like let's look at the feminine from what it means as a space of embodiment and energetically, and how it can be this source of really deep power.
Yeah. And also, I don't know, I don't want to say that's an annoying comment, but it's interesting, I guess. Because I mean, the whole like divine feminine, divine masculine thing is like, those are like two sides of one coin, right? So like the fact that there's no like, I mean, there's no men in our, actually there are though, David Bowie.
Yeah, exactly.
Who we affectionately refer to as Dad. He's our cosmic dad. And funnily enough, like he's actually the divine masculine in the She-Wolf Tarot, which I didn't even know. And that's so crazy that came up for both of us. So yeah, there are men, first of all, in Amenti. But also there's not like lack of masculine energy. Like a lot of those figures are really, I don't know, I don't want to like say that masculine equals strong because that's not true, but you know what I mean? Like there are more masculine energies in some of the cards. At least I felt like there were. And maybe it's just time for some more femininity. Sorry. Sorry about it. We don't make the rules.
Yeah. But that's the thing. This is just one of many ideas that we have for things that we've wanted to create and express. And I mean, this is what I believe is the first of many new works to come. So, this one had to be what it is. And hopefully somebody can relate deeper to their own divine feminine.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe if that's like especially triggering, maybe you really need some like a feminine deck in your life, bro.
Exactly. So speaking of the future, so God, you've been creating you always create such beautiful, beautiful works of art, but just some of what you've been posting lately has just been so dreamy and gorgeous. So what are you currently working on? What is kind of on the horizon? Where can people learn more about what you're doing? All of the wonderful things that are in store.
Oh man. So many things are in store. It's so exciting. Well, I just kind of like came into my own living space finally after a long time of like living with other people and stuff. So that has been really influential on like my artwork right now. And I love like sitting down and drawing a picture. That's like my thing from day one. But for some reason, just like the fact that I'm like trying to fill my own walls and my own space right now has like kind of seeped into my creative process. So I'm like, I just had to start working huge. So I'm actually making big wall hangings and big paintings right now. And so I'm kind of like focusing more on like the whole interior, like spaces and interiors, and like how art fits into that rather than just like putting something I'm thinking about on a piece of paper. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff, and it's actually been, I'm trying to get a show together, but like, and I'm not complaining, but people keep buying these paintings and it's awesome. But I'm trying to like get a cohesive body of work together so I can actually have something to show rather than just like a fleeting picture on Instagram. So I have my website, nataleemiller.com. I'm also doing a lot of murals lately. Again, like kind of utilizing the space itself. And I'm really like interested in the feeling of like being enveloped with the feeling of the art rather than just standing in front of it and looking at it. So I'm kind of just exploring that right now. So that's something I'm doing. That seems to be the kind of immediate future, but everything changes all the time. I'll just get like an idea and I'm like, all right, now I'm a muralist. Now I'm an illustrator. Now I'm doing pottery. I don't know. It just kind of like comes and goes. But yeah, like more like physical objects, I guess, are kind of on my horizon. I'm kind of trying to just like listen to my dreams and kind of do the Amenti thing actually. Just like but on a larger scale and just like listen to what my intuition's telling me to do. So it changes every day. Right now I'm working on a big painting for my house. I'm just going to fill my house with art until someone buys it. So that's where I'm at.
That's a good place to be at, you know, that's living in the space of creativity. It's definitely a good thing because it leaves everything kind of like open for possibility.
Yeah, I try not to like plan anything because I always go off course and then I have like a little tantrum of like, I can't follow my own rules. And it's like, I'm not the one steering this anyway. So why am I don't know why I'm trying to like make any decisions. I'm just like doing day to day what I feel like I sound like some like street preacher or something, but I really kind of just feel like I'm like doing what I'm like told to do by this weird little bug in my ear. So that's that.
You're speaking to the right audience, so
good.
follow the intuition, follow the instinct, follow the dreams, and follow what feels best, because that's where flow happens, and that's where things that you previously wouldn't have thought, or maybe did think, then begin to manifest.
Yeah, like decades ago.
Yeah.
Decades old dreams are coming true when I just do what my dreams tell me to do. I know that sounds so crazy, but I mean, everything good's happened so far, so I'm just going to keep doing that.
Hell yeah. Well, I love you so much.
I love you so much.
I'm so grateful to have you as my partner and a mentee, and that we were able to create this together, and we're going to be creating so many amazing things throughout the course of our lifetime. But your friendship has truly been like one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. So,
oh my God, ditto. And you're so wise. And like, I could not believe that like when you started sending me the Amenti, like the writings, I was just like, I was going to ask her about this. So thank you for like knowing everything I needed to hear and like meeting me with it before I knew I needed it.
Well, thank you for creating and drawing everything I needed to see to help me feel the level of inspiration and courage to reach out and to have this whole thing be birthed into the world. So it was definitely a collaborative process. This was ours. It's truly been such a gift.
I love you so much.
Love you.